In the middle of Oregon's largest metropolis, there is a park. It spans over 8 miles, covering over 5,100 acres, with over 70 miles of trail. It's one of the largest urban forests in the United States. From the smallest flower to the biggest tree, Forest Park is a refuge for plants, animals, and people alike.
Called Ecologists Unite, a lot of younger people who work for the city and all of that. And this one guy said, it's just like we never look at what it does to our spirit. And yet that's a big deal in this day and age where we just are too busy to think about that. Yeah. But I think it relaxes you. You see that beauty. You feel like there's more to this life than just being busy on a treadmill. And so I think I would hope all those values that took so long to get, preserved could be preserved further. But I don't think it's going to happen unless we all kind of come together and recognize this is a big deal. Whether no other city has this. And we could become like everywhere else if we want to. But I'd hate to see that happen.
Walking through Forest Park, it feels so obvious that something like this should exist. But Portland's wild park in the city didn't come without hard-fought perseverance and determination to preserve a piece of the original Oregon.
It had its vision way back when, over 100 years ago, when a man named Thomas Lamb Eliot came to Portland. He was a Harvard-trained Unitarian pastor, and he came to Portland, and one of his claims to fame is he started the first humane society in the country, here in Oregon. And he decided, he loved Portland, he thought it was just a fabulous city, and he did lots of moralizing and preaching, but he said by close to end of the 1800s, he said the city he loved, he thought was slipping just in the opposite direction. It was just becoming a place he didn't want to see where it was going. And he realized, he was pretty intelligent, he realized it wasn't just his preaching wasn't doing well, but he could have another strategy, and that was the civilizing effects of nature.
Despite his best efforts, Eliot found his city slipping through the cracks. Eliot continued to preach but found it had little effect, so he turned to another strategy. Knowing full well the power of nature, he sought out the Olmsted brothers, designers of no less than Central Park.
He advocated to bring the most esteemed landscape architecture from the day, the Olmsted brothers, who designed Central Park, a lot of these parks throughout the country, to come to Portland and make a park planning study for the city. So they did. John Olmsted came in 1903, and the report, you can still get it online, is phenomenal. And one of his major recommendations was to create a wild woodland nature preserve that would be Forest Park.
It is true that some people look upon such woods merely as a troublesome encumbrance standing in the way of more profitable use of the land, but future generations will not feel so, and will bless the men who are wise enough to get such woods preserved. Future generations will be likely to appreciate the wild beauty and the grandeur of the tall fir trees in this forest park, or reservation as it would perhaps better be called. Its deep, shady ravines and bold, view-commanding spurs do far more than the majority of the citizens of today, many of whom are familiar with similar original woods. But such primeval woods will become as rare about Portland as they now are about Boston. If these woods are preserved, they will surely come to be regarded as marvelously beautiful. Olmsted Report, 1903.
And so that vision was there for a number of years, and then things changed in 1912 when a new mayor, a commissioner of former government, came on board and decided parks weren't necessary and all that would be scrapped. And so the parks superintendent, they'd hired this Emmanuel Miche, who'd worked so hard, and they had a park bond that failed, but he was just believed in this Olmsted plan. He was so unhappy he resigned. And then everything for Forest Park went downhill at that time.
Olmsted's plan would prove to be a difficult one to implement. Lacking funds and the failure of a park bond, John Olmsted declared in 1909 that Portland is not a wait to her opportunities.
I think there's always a void when somebody, all that vision kind of evaporates, and the mayor said, I don't want to spend any money beautifying this city, we have enough parks. Well, we have a neat woodpecker up there. So what happened was, in the interim, land speculators got involved, thinking this would be a great place to develop hundreds of home sites. So this guy named Richard Shepard got all this attention, and he started selling lots all through what we now know as Forest Park. And one other thing he did is he built a road, an 11-mile road that runs actually through Forest, halfway through Forest Park. Probably a lot of people have seen it. It's not open to traffic now, to try to get people to jump on buying these home sites. We know it today as Leif Erikson Drive. But anyway, so they sold all these home sites, and he was thrilled. And at the same time, they were opening up all the north end where we are to a lot of logging, thinking this is great. So all the vision for Forest Park just was out the door.
Lacking funds and with home sites and logging taking over, the idea for Forest Park seemed to become a lost cause, a forgotten dream never to come to fruition. But ideas don't die easy, and the arrival of 3 important Oregonians resurrected the Forest Park movement.
Some people wonder, why do we call this a wilderness, an urban wilderness? And that's because it was Cleator, the first one to give it the name. He gave us the Pacific Crest Trail. So he thought the city where he lived should have a wilderness park for wilderness values, and that was his quote back in the 20s. And Thornton Munger, who came out here too, absolutely believed the same thing. And they teamed up with a third man named Ding Cannon, who came out here. He ended up being the president of Standard Insurance, and he believed the same thing, that we should resurrect that whole Olmsted plan. We need to protect this. This would be the most phenomenal park a city could ever have. So what they did was they took this idea to the City Club of Portland, which is kind of a independent organization that looks at a lot of issues affecting our city and our state. And they did a feasibility study, and it came back that this really would be a phenomenal gift to have Portland have. So they were unanimous in that, and then they couldn't take that straight to City Hall, so they formed something called the Forest Park Committee of 50, which was 50 organizations, Mazamas, Audubon Society, Portland Garden Club, a bunch of others, to write up this resolution and send it to City Hall, which they did, and then City Hall in 1947 adopted it unanimously, and so in September of 1948, this actually became a park. It's because these people never gave up, even though it looked pretty grim for a long time. When I was writing the book, I thought, how am I going to end one city's wilderness? What does Forest Park really mean to me? And it kind of came to me, I wrote a little section called Bridge to the Future, but I realized that I'm not entitled to this place. And I think today, and it seems like for so much we feel entitled to this and entitled to that, I thought, no, I don't feel entitled to it, I feel entrusted with it. And it's a really different way of, in your mind to think about something. And because I feel like we had all these people that a lot of them I never knew that fought to give this to us for these amazing values, from the Olmsteds to Lamb to, Ding Cannon and Cleator. They just had these incredible gift they wanted to give the city, and now it's kind of our turn to what are we going to do for the next several generations. And so I guess that's part of the reason I wanted to write a book like this and talk about it, is to get the word out what makes it unique. Because some could look at it as just a 5,000-acre playground, which is what it could be. But it was never set up that way historically. And there was one senator, this Newberger, back in the 50s, who wrote an article about it way back when. And he said, Forest Park is a museum of Oregon that was. It's a place you can connect with your native landscape to see what was. And I think that's what's really cool, is that you can take kids here, anyone here. I take groups here. And the native plants we're seeing and the native birds we're hearing, that's what's supposed to be here. And it's a place in our frenetic life, I think. I think like for most of us, we're so busy and we're so fragmented in what we do. A place to kind of come, like this idea of solace, of just letting, kind of getting disconnected from life and letting this beauty pour into you. I think that's a big deal. And we don't hear about that much in park management.